sincere and significant burden of mental health. And in addition to mental health services being an issue, housing, employment, and other psychosocial determinants of health are obviously very prominent. We watched with dismay and heartbreak the fleeing of the displaced over the course of a week in the fall of 2023. And this was after 10 months of a blockade. And I think I was here talking about the probable impact of the blockade on, in particular, my area of field of interest is in pregnant women and newborns. And I don't know why the colors turn this way, but we were talking here about micronutrient deficiencies, poor access to prenatal care, lack of healthcare resources and medications, lack of breastfeeding support. And then we added on this idea of the issue of post-displacement mental health with increased risk of maybe postpartum depression, PTSD, and other issues. What we talked about also here in another talk was that undernutrition that was probable during the blockade has intergenerational consequences. So woman here is undernourished. Can you see the cursor? No. So if a pregnant woman is undernourished, you know, she may have a low birth weight baby. That child can have a risk of having chronic malnutrition, and the cycle can continue for generations. So we were particularly interested in some key micronutrients during pregnancy that we thought during the blockade might be deficient. So we talked about iron, folate, iodine, and I won't spend too much time on that. But all of these have sincere fetal impact and maternal impact. But we had no data. That was one of the big issues. We had no data, and we were really only able to help people with support via Zoom, obviously. We weren't able to send in food. We weren't able to send in like prenatal vitamins and things like that. What we learned later through a study that was done at the American University of Armenia was that, not surprisingly, Armenians are very, very resourceful. And there were a number of food coping strategies during the blockade. This is a photograph of the kinds of vouchers that the government organized and gave to the population. And when they had potatoes, for example, you could take your voucher and go to where those potatoes were being distributed and get, you know, yergu kilo, it looks like there, for that. This was in the beginning. But we also learned in this study that people were preserving food. They were finding alternative cooking methods. They were using livestock as a lifeline. Salt extraction, I want to talk about. There was a lot of fear of the water quality because there were rumors that the Azeris were putting chemicals into the water. So there was just a lot of fear, and there was a lack of bread, which is, as you know, the sort of the staple food on the table. I want to talk about salt extraction. So by June or July of the blockade, most supplies of salt had run out. It had not been brought in as humanitarian assistance. It had not been brought in. And salt is, I mean, we all need to have a little bit of sodium in our bodies. But in addition to which, salt is iodized for Armenia as well. And that's where pregnant women get that here and in Armenia. That's where they get that essential micronutrient. And any landlocked country or people who are not eating a lot of seafood, that's an important, very important micronutrient. And it turns out that in January, February, March, that era of the beginnings of the blockade, life was moving forward. People just assumed the blockade would be lifted. Any day now, it would be lifted. There'd be some kind of resolution, right? It turns out that in the winter months, they cleared the snow off of the main highways or main roads, and they did rock salt on the roads, right? So they did rock salt on the roads. This is January, February, March. By June or so, really, most families didn't have any salt left. People didn't even really think to really preserve it. And what we learned in this study was that they went to the sides of those main roads and they sifted the dirt and the sand to get the rock salt. And then they boiled that rock salt. They let the dirt or the sediment settle. Then they took that water, put it into another one, and then they would boil pasta or, whatever they had, potato or something like that. Very extremely innovative coping strategies. But the other thing that's very important here is that by mid-August, they had run out, a lot of people had run out of the GIF, the food for animals. And they did a large culling of the livestock. They killed a lot of the cattle, the cows and stuff like that, because also in the outlying areas, because of snipers and things, they really couldn't go up into the mountains over the fields easily. So the government actually gave one of these coupons. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find online, I'm getting these from like Facebook and stuff. I haven't found online the voucher for it, but they gave each person 2 kilos of 2 kilos of davarimis, of beef in mid-August. And this is important because when everything happened, well, these are quotes from the study. There was no salt. We used to cook salt and make salt from the soil. We were sifting those roads that were sprinkled in the winter during the blockade with salt to melt the ice. That salt was still there. The people started sifting, and with the soil, it was mixed in. At one point, people said that it cannot be used, but whatever. We also used it for food and for pickling. And then another thing they did for salt was they used the livestock would have a salt block. If any of you have been with like horses or in the stall, they have like a big block of salt that the animal can lick. And so those were still available in the market. So they would buy that and then cut it up and use that. There's just a lot of stories of community resilience. This is actually a photograph of a woman receiving for like Women's Day, kind of like Mother's Day. Mardi Ultaner? Anyway, they would gift a bouquet of eggs or something like that. So very innovative. And again, by the very end of the blockade, they didn't have any white flour for the last probably 3 months or so. So they had early harvest of the wheat, and then they just didn't have processing plants, right, for the wheat. So they made this very, they complained a lot about the taste, but they made this very healthy wheat bran bread. And in the bottom row of photographs in the middle is lentils, but they're so used to drinking their coffee every day and they missed it. They didn't have coffee. So they would toast the lentils and they would grind it and make like this coffee out of lentils just to have that sense that they're having their coffee in their coffee cup. So when we watched everybody coming out, I mean, obviously terrible heartbreak. I was looking at what is in the bags that they're giving these people. What are they, what is the baby eating? What are they giving people? And I was really looking for signs of malnutrition as well. And what was hard was that we couldn't collect any data. It was such chaos. There was no really way. Usually in public health, we first identify the problem. What is the data and how do we then solve that problem? And it was really tough to even think about getting survey data here. So what Aslik did, you're going to meet her in a second, very quickly, in a matter of maybe a day or two, she put out a Google form. And in the Google form, she said, we're looking for all pregnant women, postpartum women, and anyone with children up to age 5, because that was our sweet spot of where we wanted to triage And within hours, that number, this was taken within hours of her posting this. They had data from 725 people. And by the end, I think she had a few thousand people. So Aslik and the Mom Center, you're going to be introduced to them now. She's somebody I've worked with over the last few years. They got contact. They had people signing up so that they could have a list. And then they needed to know where were these people because everyone was moving. Right. So just because they came into Goris, they didn't stay in Goris. Then they went to another house. That house didn't have room. So then they went to another house. And this was a way for her to stay in touch with them. So this is sort of one of those rapid on the ground data collection, means. And this is the last slide I'm going to show. I'm going to pass on to Hambartsum. This is a bit of a busy slide, but I want to say that at the end of the first or second week of October, because I was convinced that there would be malnutrition and that there would be anemia, I sent over a machine that would take your hemoglobin measure from your finger. It's called the HemoQ. It's called a point of care measure. They don't have them in Armenia, not a single one. So, found somebody from Philly who was going to go. I got on Amazon. I sent, whatever. So a week or two later, a group went down to Goris, to some of these where the people were staying in those like motels. And this is a very small sample. So I just want to say that it's a very, very small sample. But the people that they were measuring were people who just did not have any resources. If they had had any resources, they wouldn't be in these motels. So they tested for anemia, 39 children under 5, 4 pregnant women, and 9 women who had had an infant within the last year. And you would expect anemia rates in those people, particularly if there was a lot of malnutrition. And they didn't find. They found some children with mild anemia. No one had moderate anemia. No one had severe anemia. And we had been ready to go. We had the funding and the the Ministry of Health permission. We were ready to go and do like this major triaging for these vulnerable groups. And this one weekend changed our mind that indeed there may have been people who were severely malnourished, but it wasn't population wide. And that what this team saw when they went was the psychosocial, just the mental health aspects of health. So we kind of pivoted. And then the idea and the genesis for supporting displaced women and children from Artsakh came about from St. Leon's. And the components of that, what we thought about doing was indeed nutrition education, because now that they were out and had a little bit more access, it was really important that they eat nutritiously. There was reproductive health training, psychosocial support for mothers and children, pregnancy counseling, early childhood counseling, hygiene packages were given out. There was a number of webinars, print materials were made, and there's community training of trainers so that there would be leaders from those communities who were trained in these topics who could pass it along. And the specialists that were involved, and Aslik will talk a little bit about this, but Aslik herself is Hayastansi, but then Hayastansi to California, back to Hayastan. But she worked with 2 psychologists from Artsakh, neonatologists, pediatricians, OBGYNs, lactation specialists, and so on. So this program the genesis of the discussion started in 2023, and I think that the funding was sent in early 2024, if I'm mistaken. So now I'm passing the baton. That's sort of the setup, and then I'll talk a little bit about the results later. Okay, now I'm going to go to your slides. Let me start. Okay, so now I would like to introduce Hambartsum Simonyan. He's a trained pediatrician from Hayastan who has been the medical director of the Fund for Armenian Relief for many years, and is also now the deputy director of the Fund for Armenian Relief in Armenia. And he will talk a little bit, and then he's going to introduce you, Aslik Can. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Any questions so far?
I have one question.
Yeah. Yes.
You said you tested for anemia and you were surprised.
Yep. Yep.
How long after the blockade did you do this?
Right about a week or two after they came out of Artsakh.
Because anemia may develop over time.
It could, but what happened, that's exactly right. But what happened was then our focus was on food education in Armenia. Because it turns out in some very weird serendipitous way that the meat distribution and that wheat bran bread probably was high enough in iron to prevent an iron deficiency anemia in those measures. That was the conclusion that a group of us came to. And so we knew that they could become anemic, and they could have had maybe those last few weeks, maybe. You're right, that it takes about 120 days to see the impact. And so that was why the emphasis was now on nutrition education for that age group. Yeah, I can talk a lot more about this, but it turns out that we were on the lookout for low birth weight infants for Artsaksis who were delivering in Armenia. We were on the lookout for stunted growth of children. We didn't see it. Not, there may have been individuals, but we're thinking about on a population-wide level. So, okay, yeah. Generes. Asa.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you, Kimcan, for introduction, and good evening one more time, and thank you, Jan, for this opportunity. So I will continue and to share with you some insights regarding to this particular project that we started in a very unfortunate situation after the forcibly displacement of Artsakh people. And just a small prehistory of when, how to do that? Sorry. Okay,
Asa, next slide. Asa.
Yeah.
Asa, next slide, Kimcan.
So, okay. I just the Kim spoke about the crisis when more than 100 people have been forcibly displaced from Artsakh, and the crisis started, and why we came to the idea to implement kind of projects. So, but before starting to present you some insights about the project. Just briefly, Fund for Armenian Relief. Why Fund for Armenian Relief? This is the organization that actually has been founded in response to the earthquake in 1988. So Fund for Armenian Relief is an organization that well known in Armenia, at least as one of the flexible and reactive organizations to react and to give activities in time of emergencies, crises, and when Kim called me and shared the information that St. Leon Church, Araras, is going to discuss the opportunity, what we can do for the displaced Artsaksis. Actually, it was difficult even that time to come up with some projects to understand, and it took some time to discuss, and finally we decided together that next, Kimcan, that the most vulnerable group that we should address in the scope of this program are pregnant women and children. Why? Because Kim and I, together with MOM team, have been involved in different projects starting after Second War 2020 and in time of blockade, and we were very well known about the situation regarding the mothers, young women, children, and after displacement, these people came from about 1 year blockade, having all the troubles that Kim shared with you, and afterwards they lost everything, their homes, etc., and came in Armenia. Even though they are Armenians, there is no differences in the culture, etc. But we well know that there were a lot of things, psychological issues, and other things that can burden and make more stressful situation for them. So knowing mom organization, the first idea to came our mind to start working with these people, with women, pregnant, and catch up the children, providing them with the psychiatric, psychological, and some educational support, which can help them to adapt to, let's say, underwent the adaptation period regarding the nutrition and other issues relating to their health. So working together with mom centers, in the very beginning, we started the project with the mom center and Tavush Foundation that has been established by FAR. It's one of the FAR projects started in 2013 in one of the borderline regions in Armenia, actually based on the one small project, the children nutrition, and it's grow up to big multi-dimensional project, and now it's a separate foundation. And why Tavush Foundation? Because they are working in one of the borderline regions that have been populated with displaced Artsaksis in the beginning, about 100 families, and the most vulnerable and socially insecure families went to the Tavush. So we chose these two organizations as subcontractors, sub-partners actually, Mom Center and Tavush Foundation, to start the program providing basically the focusing on the psychological support of children, mothers, women, and working with them, giving some educational and knowledge for the this adaptation period, and giving them some basic support in the hygiene packages, as Kim mentioned. And so you can see in this slide, this is the picture from Artsakh, and the most important things I will share
This
then.
from Tavush.
Yeah, this is Tavush,
Tavush.
and the most important thing that the doctor providing the psychological.
This is the
speech-
Artsakhi
yeah,
psychologist.
she's Artsakhi,
Yeah.
and it was very important. Astrid will share more insights about this, but this is very important when Artsakhi, displaced Artsaksis, meet their doctors.
Oh,
And she communicated with them in the Artsakh dialect, and it was very important in that time to take off all the barriers for the communication. So psychologically, it was very important to focus on. And here, Kim Du Baneyuzum, you wanted to the some.
so the feedback, they collected. They have a lot of data on who participated with which things. So if you're interested in those, I think we gave them as like quarterly reports or updates. But the feedback, the open-ended feedback, was the most heartwarming, really. I mean, this one says, every meeting gave me strength and patience. It gave me energy for the whole week. There was one woman, I attended because I needed to understand myself and my emotions. Seeing others from Artsakh helped ease my longing. We shared our pain, our memories, our hope. The warmth of these meetings gave us courage. At one of the meetings, I'm going to show a very brief video, but at one of the meetings, a woman came out and said that, or she wrote, I think, on her feedback that this is the first time since the blockade. Now, mind you, this was, 8, 9, 10 months later. She said, this is the first time that I have felt like myself, because there was activities that they could engage in with their children and be in community. Yeah.
And I guess, yes. And here, actually, I prefer to give a slot to Astrid. Astrid will share some insights and activities, results regarding to mom part of the project, and then finally I will come up with the summary. So Astrid-jan, I think you can hear.
Հիմայդ վիդեո ցույց տամ, կամ ուզում ես վերջում ցույց տամ?
Գուցե վերջում ցույց տանք։
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna let you just discuss who you are, who Mom Center is, And you don't
Yeah.
have to spend so much time on this. We talked about all the other sort of broader issues within reproductive health that you want to just at least let the audience know a little bit about. Yeah.
Sure,
So,
sure. Can you hear me?
yes, perfect.
Perfect. Hello.
Calling from Armenia, I just want to say, so yeah.
Hello. Yes, it's 5 a.m. here. And I'm really happy to connect with you, to have this opportunity to share about, first of all, introduce myself, and then share about a little bit about the Mom Center, as well as the projects that we have collaborated with the FAR. Of course, having such a great opportunity to be funded by the St. Leon Church, I want to take this moment to really, really thank you for funding this very important project, uh, especially for Artsaksis, and then also we extended to rural communities, trying to integrate Artsaksis into the host villages wherever they were. So a couple of words about myself and the Mom Center. I'm a medical anthropologist, and I'm also a doula, a birth assistant. I relocated to the US 30 years ago almost, and with my late husband, we had a community nonprofit organization that was dedicated to bring awareness about the benefits of the natural childbirth, breastfeeding, and infant care. My late husband was a child and adolescent psychiatrist. We, with my husband, we go back to 16 years together. Our friendship when we first met at the New York Armenian Medical Congress. And so we have always done projects in Armenia, but in 2022, I realized after the passing of my husband that we have to create something in Armenia-based, to dedicate all our attention on obstetric care, neonatal care, and issues that pertain to obstetrics in general, that we thought was essential for the sustainable population growth in Armenia, because we realized that without sustainable population, no matter where we invest our money, every aspect of our investment may fall apart without the population. Because currently in Armenia, we have only 1.6 birth rate, and this is especially important, and I consider it as a national security issue. So, so this is kind of a prehistory and my impetus to move to Armenia. Almost most of the time of the year I'm here. But what we collaborated on this project, and this is a continuous project for us, at least for the Mom Center. After the displacement, even before the displacement came, I want to say a couple of words what we did during the blockade. We immediately reacted, and we immediately created programs with professionals that were on the ground, psychologists, OBGYNs, neonatologists. Yes, we have done a tremendous work when there was no food supply and there were no formulas, and babies were literally starving. And so we created a program that is called an attempt to relactate the mother, relactation we call, to bring back the milk supply, even if the mom has weaned the baby from the breast or has not initiated breastfeeding yet. So that was a a great way to know who is on the ground, to collaborate with the Ministry of Health of Artsakh. We immediately created an MOU, and we also collaborated with all the polyclinics and ambulatories. So we had a prehistory before the displacement of the Artsakhs. We already knew the moms. Mother by mother, we had phone calls and FaceTime calls, teaching them how to bring back the milk supply so the babies wouldn't starve. So when the displacement happened, we already had this network of professionals and the family, moms and families, and that was an easy way to, already having had that work done prior to their displacement. We have done number of programs. Childbirth in the times of emergency, childcare in the time of emergency, breastfeeding in the time of emergency. So when they were coming, they were even calling us from the road. Some mothers just gave birth there and then displaced, relocated to Armenia. So we had this whole prehistory of what was going on, and the connections were already established. So when they came to Armenia, when they were displaced and relocated to different parts of Armenia, as Kim was saying, we immediately put together a Google form to know where they are, their whereabouts, and some more data about who is pregnant, who just gave birth, who is nursing, who just had a baby but is not nursing. So we collected this data, and we started to work with them, going to their communities and doing what we already did during the blockade. We provided with psychological care for the children. We provided with groups of Artsaksis, as Kim and Anahit, Kim and Tambartsun were saying. The psychologist Anahit Lalayan and child psychologist Armine Sebumyan, both speaking in Artsakh dialect, providing excellent groups, and for children also games and psychosocial games and support process groups, etc. So that was the psychological part, but we also created programs for mothers who were or expectant mothers with pregnancy, birth preparation, and neonatal care, nutrition as well. And we also had lactation consultants, breastfeeding consultants. So those programs were extremely successful, and we had a very good feedback. The total number of beneficiaries we collected was over 1,200 people. Only out of which around 679 were adults, 447 were children, and 58 we did TOT, trainers of trainers. 58 of them were professionals, mainly birth workers. And also primary care physicians. So we're extremely content with the results. As I said at the beginning, they were exclusively Artsaksis, but the community leaders asked us to also include some locals in the rural areas, so Artsaksis would not be, given a special status, and also Artsaksis could start to integrate into their local, communities, and these meetups were an important way to have Artsakhi mothers and also local village moms. So we created also this a space for them to integrate more and more as we went through our programs. We're encouraged to do that. Yeah. Mhm.
Thanks.
Okay. Of course,
So
of course. Maybe we could show one of the videos.
Yeah, I think I can show a video just to get a flavor of it, and then we can just have Q&A. Կամ դու ուրիշ բաներ ասեր։
Աստիկը արդեն ասեց, ուղղակի Սամրին այդ բանով հենց ինչով էր կարևոր, որ այդ community-ն, բայց ոբշե ասեց, կարանք summarize անենք, բայց let me know.
Yeah, please feel free, Hambartsumjan, to fill in, what I did not cover.
I just to add what Astik says as a final, not actually final, but logical continuation of the stages that MOM provides the training, extensive training for healthcare professionals, for having the big experience providing the community trainings that we did within the scope of our other regional programs, that we provide community trainings for mothers, young adolescents on the healthcare topics. So we tried to use this experience and this model here too, as Asik mentioned, to help us Artsakhi mothers to integrate and not to segregate local women's and Artsakhis, but the format, the community trainings that they all come together in the same place, and also they come close to the local healthcare professionals, family physicians, for more support in their routine life. So, and also we just developed these kind of materials where all the
This is from you.
this is the Armenian, just one sample. This is before the delivery and after delivery. So just a guideline on the most actual topics that we collected,
All by
all the experts topics, and we provide the participants just to have in the end. And we have already managed to provide kind of trainings into most, let's say, vulnerable places populated with Artsakhi displaced people in Vayots and Chambarak. It's a Gegarkunik, the borderline regions. And if I can,
sorry, I put you.
yeah,
I was
actually,
I don't know if
there,
this is gonna
yeah, we have already. Oh, I can show the later if
later if
yeah.
we do a Q&A. Okay, so let me see if I can get this to
so
work.
yeah, so we just want to finish that saying that we are thinking to continue because it's a very important. Already we have a lot of feedbacks about the how effective its feedbacks came from the providers, the family physicians, and also from participants, that how effective it is regarding the topics, regarding the format, communication, integration, etc. So we are going to continue this format, providing the training in other places where we have a lot of displaced Artsakhi, in Kotaik Mars, Armavir Mars. And also during the training, we provide the hygiene package that Kim showed all the participants. It's somehow gestures, the gest of the caring, and that gives small motivation for them.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
also we are thinking about just if I can add one more thing, Kim-Jan, you can then we are thinking about for the next stages to think about the children, because the displaced Artsakhi children, they are going to the preschools, and we are trying to think about supporting the preschools where Artsakhi displaced children are there, and somehow support these preschools with nutrition, balanced menus that also far has experience from other places, and we can replicate this by this kind of support, also using the scope of the program and foundation. So this is just a brief summary what we have, what we are thinking to do, how to continue the program and partnership, because in our beliefs, for at least upcoming 2-3 years, displaced Artsakhi, our compatriots from Artsakh, they need our support, at least the vulnerable group that we are focusing on. This is all from my side. Kimcan, go ahead.
Çözümüm denaliyeti aşkı.
There's so many things to share and say. That's
I don't know how to.
Yeah, I wanted to add to what Hambartsum said, may I?
Yes.
yeah.
I just want to make a comment that, as you know, the 100,000 people, when they came, most of them left the country. Not all of them stayed. And so these programs truly help these people to feel rooted here, to feel like there are people who care. There are people who speak their language. There are people who provide, education, hope, and that sense of belonging is very important. And this reintegration programs are truly helping them to feel like, okay, I can relocate here and I can stay here. And that's precious for us as well. It's not just what the education that we're providing, it's also giving them hope to stay in the country.
Not making it bigger.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna try this, but I have to put my volume on for this to work. I can stay muted. Yeah, I'm not listening. I can't hear it.
Okay.
Let me try. Because I'm on maximum volume here, but it's because my computer's not working.
We'll see what the feedback. So
Oh.
there's feedback.
Oh, that was a phone. Okay, let me stop and see. Okay. Let me see. I'm sorry, I can't make it bigger. I don't know how to do it. So this is the,
This is in Matsis.
yeah, Masis region, and this is one of the Artsakhi psychologists. She was an amazing, amazing person.
And this is child psychology doing the program, Armenian.
She's also Artsakhi. Yeah, yeah. They did art therapy. They did these like team building exercises to build trust. And then these are the classes for early child nutrition. Okay, so we take any questions if you have them. Then we'll let Ashley go to bed.
I was impressed that they could communicate electronically.
Yes.
That,
Asleek, the question is about communicating electronically. So they did have cell phones, and that I was always curious about that too. That as they crossed over, I mean, it was one cell network, and I hadn't realized that. They had cell towers in Artsakh, but the cell network was the same. So they were able to, even as they were coming over, if they had battery in their phone, they were able to utilize that. But really, it's, they're getting on this form a couple of days. It took us a couple of days to put the form together. Honestly, it took a couple of days for us to realize the total lack of data. When they were fleeing Artsakh, they didn't have a good electronic health record there. And the one thing that a lot of us debated was whether or not we should get message to people to have them go to the clinic and take all the paper records. But they left, for the most part, they left them. They left them. Yeah, it was chaos. So yeah, that was interesting, right? That they were able
Yeah.
to, and they were looking at, she put this on Facebook, I think, right? Did you put it on Facebook?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we were watching in real time as those numbers were coming up. We were very interested. And we also felt bad because it was almost like they wanted something right then that day, you know, because it looked like hope kind of, but she has them all in her regular contact database, you know? And the ministry was very thankful that she had this data too.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
You mentioned some psychological issues, so can you elaborate on that?
I'll let Aslik take that. Can you elaborate a little bit on what are the, you know, primary psychological issues and how your team assessed that and sort of did activities for that?
So the main psychological issue was that the mothers, some of the mothers, they birthed as they were fleeing from Artsakh, and bombs, and you know, that sense of insecurity, border insecurity, and then the loss of their homes, the loss of their everything that they had, the land, their identity, you know, mainly the loss of the identity. And when we emphasize the need to speak, you know, to have an Artsakhi dialect speaker, psychologist, that was precious, actually. That was so important, because not only they lost their homes, not only they lost their that identity as being Artsakhi, you know, that's huge for them. And then they come and they every time they spoke, they said, our kids will not speak our language. Even that was something that they wanted to cling on to, hold on to. So those were the main, you know, issues that they spoke about. I cannot speak because I'm not a psychologist, but from their feedbacks, that is what was coming out, you know, that first it was the fear, that survival issue, and then they lost everything. And there was the denial, there was the anger, there was the blame all the time, you know, who did this, who was responsible for that. All of those stages of grief was coming out as they were you know, trying to reintegrate into the Armenian society. And there was also, of course, a lot of blame to the government, to the, you know, authorities, which, of course, in the therapy setting, in the process groups were coming up. But as they saw that both the Artsakhi, both the adult and child psychologists were Artsakhi's, and it was they could relate right away. They opened up, even at the corridors when they were getting in, they would just feel so good to hear the Artsakh dialect, you know, welcoming them into the group setting. So we will continue those, you know, programs, of course, because I always talk about this for Vietnam War and all the wars in America. We still have veteran programs, right? So we have to continue our work. It's still so fresh. We have to work with the community of mothers and their families, and also you know, also the veterans themselves. You know, those programs are essential because the PTSD, that sense of loss and sense of not being integrated, that will persist for years, I think.
I can just bring another example. We have a program starting for doctors, starting in 2011 with APO for Artsakh physicians. So training program for Artsakh physicians. And after this placement, when physicians came to Yerevan, And we, until nowadays, we continuing to do that program. In the beginning, when doctors came to FAR office, it's the only place that feel the sense of security, because for long times they have a FAR through the APO, the organization that caring about them, providing trainings, etc. So doctors who are more or less psychologically sustainable and strong people, they came to FAR office, sit down, and first 30 minutes they have been crying, and after that starting to talk about the issue, how we can help, etc., etc. And until now, as Astrid mentioned, they need our help, and we are continuing to support them. It's doctors who are more or less, but when we speak about the children, women, it's totally, yeah.
And then pragmatically speaking, imagine, to become a doctor, imagine all the effort and the years and the investment from the, government. What does it cost to train one doctor and a clinician? So each one of them is very precious for Armenia. To integrate them into the Armenian society as professionals is crucial, that we have to do that. And my my bottom line, whatever I do, I want to see Armenian population grow. And this is a population, this is like a gift for Armenia to have. I mean, it's very unfortunate that we lost Artsakh. Very unfortunate that this displacement happened, but they're already here. So we have to cherish every person that came to Armenia. And this is our way to tell them, don't leave, stay. Because as you know, with immigration in Armenia, we have less and less population, and we need to critically think about this, how to preserve this population that came from Artsakh, and how to integrate them in the best optimal way.
Okay, we have another question. Malvik?
Yeah, with PTSD, with the war, is there a watch on suicide? I mean, I don't know, I've heard a lot of suicides going on, especially in young men, people who serve in the armed forces. Is there a way to, is there data studying that? How can we help?
Right, so it's two different parts of that question. So the question is about PTSD for young males who fought in the 2020 war, fought in the 2023 war, and just in general in the Army. So what I will say is that, and the question was whether we have data, is this something being monitored? In the Army today, the Department of Defense, they have a category that they do report publicly, which is called accidental death, something like that. But we don't yet have, many of them are indeed suicides. And there's been some investigative journalism on this. And there is an openness for discussing that there is suicide in the Army, as there is here in the United States as well. But I think so there needs to be a total transformation of the Army culture, and there have to be mental health supports. The entire culture does have to transform. There are people who are writing about this inside the military, but it's few. Aras knows a lot more about this. But your question is, I think, also pertinent to the general population who has survived. And honestly, Aslik, I'll let you answer this, and then Hambartsum. There's been improvement. One of the most incredibly crucial ways that the war led to improvement of psychological services is that it was the first time ever that the military allowed civilian psychologists to come into the hospitals and work side by side with each other, which was very important because it made it recognize that this doesn't need to be a secret, right? That there needs to be every resource added on. The other thing the 2020 war did on top of COVID was to open the door for people to say the words mental health. and the recognition that I'm depressed, I need to talk to someone. That culturally was a huge cultural shift in 2020. And that really allowed, I think, Oslik's group to really work on that. But all that being said, we are behind in Armenia in our evidence-based guidance for screening and treating PTSD. It's improved a lot over the last 5 years, but we're behind. And I don't know about suicide, how suicide is reported to the NIH there, but I can definitely look into it. It's not my field. But in general, my experience with public health policy planning is that we need better quality and better data so that we really can make these policies and then evaluate the effectiveness of them. That is recognized too, but systems move very slowly, and Soviet systems even more slowly, I think. Sorry. Pamuk, ուզեիք ասել, ավելացնել on PTSD and sort of surveillance and suicide?
I don't have a data on that, and but I will add that after 2020 war, the fund, my husband's fund, Arthur Pogosian Mental Health Fund, was able to provide care, mental health care for 500 soldiers that were staying in a hotel in Dilijan. And these were only those people who were getting psychological services, not psychiatric services, but the mental health wards were filled with psychiatric patients, psychiatric veterans. So the situation was this small. It was just horrible. But the 500 that received the care, they started to get better within months and get back to reintegrate into the society. But psychiatric patients, I don't think their prognosis looked good. And what was the discharge rate? I cannot test because, again, as Kim was saying, this was a very protected, area, especially with the psychiatric patients.
Good question, though. Anyone else? Yeah.
So I was on the St. Leon Parish Council at the time that we were talking about the funding and what was happening and how we could help. And we had so much confidence in the fact that all of you had a plan, you had objectives, and you're doing amazing things. I would just like to say how much we appreciate what you're doing, and we were happy to have played a very small part in it.
I mean, thank you so much. I don't know if Aslik, if you heard, she was on the parish
I heard.
council discussions for making that decision about funding. This
Thank
this project that you're seeing was entirely funded by St. Leon's. Thus far, we haven't received other funds. Nonetheless, I think that I'll let Hambartson speak to this, but I think Aslik, you would agree that the experience of doing this has led you to then understand other things you want to do in this space. So it's also like sort of a training space. Don't forget, we really hadn't had a lot of contact, and no one expected that there was going to be 100,000 Artsaksis in the country in a week. There was no preparation for this, and so I think I would say back to you that thank you for trusting this team, because and I have to say thank you very, very much to Hambartsum and Aslik, because I played a very, 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 very small role in I
agree.
because going on the ground, getting the trust of the people, working with the Mars Betaran, the Mars governor, the city mayor, the town leader, right, the village leader. There's a lot of bureaucracy that only these two people could put up with and deal with, and did it very, very well. And in some places, they were very welcomed. In other places, and she made a very good point here, and I think this was an important pivot for this program, which we didn't talk about a lot, Ada, in terms of like, what could the monies be used for? You basically trusted us. But the pivot to including the entire host community was very important because a lot of these Artsakhi displaced people are living in areas where there's just endemic poverty.
Yeah.
But they were receiving boxes of food, but the locals weren't receiving boxes. So, and a lot of the humanitarian assistance was coming in just for them. And that just built a natural division. And there were already tensions flying. Yeah. And so now the fact is that now in integrated spaces, not the psychological stuff, but the nutrition education, the pregnancy education, the training of the local clinicians, all of that was part of your project as well.
Yeah.
So that needs to I mean,
Yeah.
if I could wave a magic wand, that would continue because the divisions are just so raw in the
Of course.
society. Yeah.
We had that experience after 2020 war when we started the support program in Sisian region where Artsaksis after the war displaced, and we starting to help them, just emphasizing the help to Artsakhi, giving them different things, and we observe kind of what you mentioned, and that is why in this case we having that experience, we try to integrate them together rather than the segregate and make some confrontations, etc. So that's experience help us to come with a better option how to make easy integration.
Thank you for all that you're doing, and I
Sure.
should also say that Anna was a spearhead. Good job.
May I ask, how many Artsakhi mental health professionals have you worked with?
How many Artsakhi mental health professionals are you working with in general?
Mental health, in terms of mental health too, because I don't think there are too many Artsakhi health professionals, but the one,
Psychology, yeah.
Psychiatrist.
Anna Hitlalayan, amazing. She's an excellent clinician. She is a member of Russian academy. Academy, and she also was the first recipient of my husband's mental health award, and she has been published in the American publications. So her expertise is excellent, top quality psychology. And the child psychologist is also an excellent, maybe not as experienced, but she was amazing. I have been at her groups many times, and she's fantastic, just excellent, and speaks both, Artsakhi dialect, of course, regular Eastern Armenian, and she was able to.
Maternal health. I say some books.
So they did some training of trainers, right? So they've passed
Yeah.
on some of their skill
Right.
sets to others. So there's
Yeah,
58 people who have been trained, but not only in the mental health supports, but in the entirety of the package of
Children.
from pregnancy to, early childhood and then mental health and health integrated.
58 Artsakhi or?
Of the 58 people that have been part of the training of trainers, are there Artsaksis or is it local population?
It's both.
Oh.
As we said, we decided not to, segregate them, not to just give priority to Artsakhi professionals, but mainly Artsakhis.
What's our sense of what percentage of the population has moved outside of Armenia?
How many
Just guess.
Artsaksis have
What's
moved
your
out?
sense? What's your sense?
What is your sense from just,
Yeah.
not the data that's being reported, but like, what's your sense?
I think at least 30-40% left.
Really?
And where?
Where are they going?
Mainly Russia.
Europe.
Russia,
Europe. But
the US too. I hear a lot of Artsakhi dialect recently in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I think that's
think,
high.
yeah.
I mean, you asked for her perception.
Discuss.
Yeah,
and
I think it's a minimum of 20%.
yeah,
Mm.
it's more
Yep.
Is it easy for the autopsies to access the public health system in Ayastan? Yeah, there's, what's their status? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think they're citizens, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer this, Ask, but you can add on to this, and you too, Hamartum. So, so again, this is an awful situation. So when I'm saying that there's a positive out of it, one of the positives was that they immediately, all Artsaksis were given free healthcare services. And all they had to do to access that was to register at a local, what they call a polyclinic, but a local primary care clinic. They had to be registered, so they would have, sort of a record so that then they could use. And I think that that is so different from other refugee situations around the world. And I think it was done, at the very top with very good intentions. But then on the ground, right, there's like some discrimination. There's some people who, because again, in the host community, like you're now free, you can go to the clinic for free, but I can't. So that just creates this kind of thing. But us again, Hamartum, you can talk about on the ground, because I've heard different stories. One actual really heartwarming story I will tell you, and I think you may have had something to do with this actually. I was doing a survey in the maternity hospitals in the summer of 2024 in Yerevan. And in this one hospital, Grigor Lusavoric, I'm going room to room because I'm taking a survey about postpartum care practices, feeding practices, whatever. And room to room, and I go in a room, there's two women in the room, and they're both Artsakhi. And I go, oh my God, that's so nice, and what a coincidence, and you're both Artsakhi. And then I go to the next room, Artsakhi. And then I go in the next room, Artsakhi. And again, at any given moment, we have so few births in the country, it's awful. But at any given moment, there's only maybe 20 people on a given ward. So to have all these Artsakhis, I just didn't understand like the coincidence. So I said, can I just ask you, like, did you choose to come here, or are all Artsaksis being sent here? Because that was my thought systematically, that they're only covering them in this one hospital. She goes, no, she goes, the gynecologist, the obstetrician is Artsakhi. And she got hired here. And then we all decided that we want to be delivered by her. So, and Hamartum and Far, they were very essential in, like, they called everywhere to get people placed and get jobs. In terms of licensing, you need a certain amount of continuing medical education credits in order to get licensed in Armenia. So the government offered a certain amount of them for free, and Far picked up the rest for free. So anybody who wanted to work as a physician in the country could get that. I would say it took about maybe 6 months to get them all employed. Some of them were employed right away.
Yeah.
6
Yeah.
months.
6 months, 1 year. So we help them through the, as I mentioned, APO program. Those who needs the credit, but many of them needs, and many of them needs also to validate their diploma, because some of them after the graduation, then residency program. Somebody get the diploma of gynecologist, but during the first Artsakh war, continued to work in Artsakh as a therapist, emergency medicine, and never needs to validate the diploma. And after displacement, came to Armenia, and Armenian government demanded
Paperwork that was
required paperwork that
Yeah.
if you are going to continue as a therapist, you have to have residency on a therapy. So if you want to go to the gynecology, that's okay, but she or he can't be gynecologist because practicing the last 30 years practicing as a therapist. So they need residency and
translating. It's like a
DP.
general, general
DP.
practitioner.
And 1 year residency program costs about 1 million dram. It's $2,500. Even government covering 50%, but the rest 50% per year. It's not affordable for them. And there we starting to use our funds from different programs just for the emergency relief. And 50 healthcare professionals, doctors and nurses, underwent this program under our support to get clinical residency programs and validate their diploma to get the license and practice. So a lot of things came
23, 20, after the 23, it was, we have a two eras. So after 2020 and after 2023, and I don't know what comes next.
Just have a question. We're told at Apple meeting about approximately 100, about 300 physicians came from outside of Armenia, and about 100 of them left the country. And is that true or?
Oh, actually, the number of physicians, considering also pharma and dentists that never get our trainings, that's why we always say the 300, 320, because we consider the clinicians practicing in the clinics, but pharma, dentists, laboratory physicians, altogether it's about 500, 515, but the number 100, it's not actually valid data, because some of them going and coming back, moving to Russia and then come back. But I can exactly, if I can say that in my observation that I personally know people about 20, 30 physicians that left, but for more accurate data, it's very difficult, and I'm not sure that somebody knows that the accurate data, because again, they are moving, sometimes some of them going to the Russia, then after 2-3 months, coming back to Armenia, and then so on. But
majority of them stayed.
yes, majority of them stayed. We have successful cases. Some of them went to the regions, different regions, and successfully practicing there. For instance, in Tarshish, Lori, pediatricians. Yeah. And but the majority of them prefer to stay in Yerevan and nearby neighbor regions in Yerevan, Artashat, Kotayk. It's again, so far they have a psychological barrier to go to live and work in the borderline regions. For instance, regardless how much it's dear to them, Tavush unique, the dialect, the cultural things, but again, they
Here,
yeah,
this-
They're afraid, right?
they're afraid.
Yeah.
It's a psychological so far.
Yeah.
Have number of workshops changed over the last, let's say, 6 months compared to the prior 6 months?
Like the number of participants when at your events, it was a 2-year
It's-
project, or it's really a
I think
year,
growing up.
A year and a
year and a half. Yeah. Is the numbers going up in the communities when you go?
Yes, yes. Interestingly, at the beginning, because they were so used to getting humanitarian aid, they would come and say, "Zetka, karakka." Is there
Oil, is there butter?
butter or the shakaravazka, like sugar, etc. And then when we're welcoming them into those programs, they were skeptical at the beginning. We're even thinking to create some packages to always combine humanitarian aid with the education. But then we thought, this is not sustainable. We cannot do it endlessly. So we decided to use other techniques. So now it was like word of mouth. Prior attendees were inviting other members of the community. So it started to take a shape of its own and more and more popularity. You saw I think the first part was cut. Kim, I didn't see the first part of the video, but a lot of people showed up in Masis region, especially.
Yeah, they've had to go to larger settings, so that's how I knew the numbers were going up.
Yeah.
Now they're in like
And when will our funding be exhausted?
when is the funding finished?
Funding.
Are we
can say-
finished?
No, we have, I can say approximately, but I for sure will send a financial report, but approximately we have almost 40,000 yet to provide. Yeah. at
And I
least,
do have to
yeah,
say, I
Yeah.
mean, I want you to take this back to the
40,
parish
40,
council.
40,
Oslick and,
not 14, 40, 40. Yeah.
these guys are the most frugal. In fact, Oslick and I were almost like wanting to kill Humberto, because he's like, no, we can do it for cheaper. No, like they would get food or whatever, and Oslick and her team, they're like cutting the vegetables for the thing, and they're very frugally used
Yeah.
and very good accounting, for the both of them.
Yeah.
If
That-
your board is interested in seeing exactly where the money went, we know how many
Yeah.
kilometers, the
This-
gasoline,
yeah.
but it's just so, I mean, it's, yeah. It's
Our,
I add-
our finance people killed us.
killed.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
say-
it was an overkill, actually. It was an overkill. FAR has been the most difficult, I don't want to say difficult, but, really, really very
Strict.
strict reporting system. Something that, even the UNFPA hasn't been that, strict about the reporting system. And our CPAs have been in contact, like 1,000 calls going back and forth until we figured out exactly how they want the reporting to be done. And I want also to tell you from our side that our admin only takes a very small portion, and in this case, truly, most of the money goes into straight to those who are delivering the services, the providers, the professionals. We value them very highly, and we hold them in very high regard, and we pay them. Most of the funding, it's not like in other organizations where admin is, taking most money and then allocating less money to the program itself. Really good way of allocation, and FAR has put very strict guidelines on how we're reporting. Everything is extremely transparent. I don't know about other NGOs in Armenia, but the Mom Center has been around for only 3 years, but we have done so many programs, not only with FAR, not only with St. Leon's, grant, but very, hundreds of other programs were carried out. And just recently, Hovnanian Foundation looked through our paperwork before giving us a grant. So going through that process too, it was like almost an audit. Everything is transparent. And I have to tell you something. Armenian government also holds the NGOs in very, strict guidelines and reporting system. So you just be rest assured that financially we are in a very good standing in terms of the reporting system.
And of course, speaking about the balance, and I just want to add that for the next year, at least, of course, we will present the end of the year annual report with the results and next year planning. So, but again, it is our great wish to continue to work with St. Leon, because and then conducting the community trainings and other activities with the mom, as we mentioned and Kim mentioned, it's somehow ongoing evaluation and needs assessment. What will be the next, because the needs changing from the situation, from the day to day, from the month to month regarding to Artsakhi, and we maybe for the next upcoming years we will come to with a new proposal to do something different. But at least next year we are planning to do the same format, continue to cover other communities, and using this opportunity to catch up them, and again make a better and more focused needs assessment to figure out the next stages of the program. but again, it is our great pleasure to continue to work with the organization, such a generous, kind, and flexible. So, yeah, and
Yeah.
we'll try to do our best to use resources. To use the resources, yes, in the most effective way that you can feel the effect and how much your contribution impacted in this critical situation. So, and as I mentioned, the children, the nutrition, it can be the logical continuation. We can speak about more details. So.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank
you.
you, African. Thank you so much for joining. This is very
Thank you, Astrid Can. Bravo.
fun.
Thank you.
I hope you can sleep now that the sun is probably up. Yeah,
Go to sleep.
yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I'm gonna leave the webinar, right?
Yeah.
Boy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you for trust.
No. Yeah, that's very good. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.